Weston opens this chapter by discussing the outlining process. He focuses on the main points that should be addressed when composing an argumentative essay. The gist of this chapter is that Weston outlines steps for ensuring that our essays effectively present and support our arguments. Weston emphasizes the importance of clearly explaining the question or issue that our essays seek to address. He advises us to provide context and background information to help readers understand the significance of the topic and the arguments we're advancing. By explaining the question, we can establish a strong foundation for our argumentative essays and ensure that readers are fully informed about the issues, at least informed enough to grasp the motivation for your argument and its purpose. And our goal is for our readers to understand because we want to convince them, not just persuade them or otherwise manipulate them. Conviction is the target. Weston recommends making a clear and specific claim or proposal in argumentative essays. He explains that a well-defined thesis statement serves as the central focus of the essay and provides a clear direction for the argument. Without a clear thesis statement, I end up wondering where the paper is going the whole time I'm reading it. Like, what are you trying to say? Or what are you actually arguing for? By articulating a definite claim or proposal, we can establish a strong and compelling argumentative stance that guides the overall structure and content of the essay. It's hard to convince someone if you're confusing them. You want your paper to stay on track and not feel like it's all over the place. And a clearly defined thesis statement helps with that. Weston advises us to develop our arguments fully by providing sufficient evidence, reasoning, and analysis to support our claims. He explains that each argument should be thoroughly explored and explained, with relevant examples, data, expert opinions, and so on. By doing this, we can strengthen the persuasiveness and credibility of our essays and convince readers of the validity of our claims. During this outlining process, try to put your arguments into valid forms as we discussed in Chapter 6. Once your arguments and your outline are clearly set out, you have what you need to build them out into an argumentative essay. And remember, you don't need to include every single argument you can imagine for or against your view, just the one or two that you think are the strongest. Weston encourages us to consider potential objections to our arguments and address them proactively in our essays. He explains that acknowledging and responding to counterarguments demonstrates intellectual honesty and strengthens the overall persuasiveness of the essay. By anticipating objections and providing thorough rebuttals, we can preemptively address readers' concerns and reinforce the credibility of our arguments. Don't neglect your argument's weaknesses, admit them. Don't ignore the disadvantages of your proposals, explain why they're worth the trouble. As Weston says, sift through all of the objections you can think of and pick the strongest, most common ones and try to answer them. As a basic expectation, every argumentative essay, which is what we're calling a complex philosophy paper in this course, should answer objections preemptively. Finally, Weston advises us to consider alternative perspectives or solutions to the issues we're considering. He explains that exploring alternative points of view can demonstrate openness to diverse perspectives and enrich the depth and complexity of our arguments. It may even change our minds. But by considering alternatives, we can demonstrate our critical thinking skills and present a more nuanced and well-balanced analysis of our issues. Weston ends this chapter with some good considerations for the paper I've been proposing as an example of a complex philosophy paper on the existence of God. Will the evidence I have or find in my research process get me all the way to the omni-God I want to argue for? Or will I have to make concessions, since in Western analytic philosophy, we can only endorse what actually follows logically?